What is up, all you GBA type people? This is Tom, and I'm here with your Pick'em Crew Week 3. That didn't rhyme this time. Damn it. With me, unlike the past 2 weeks, I have a guest.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's McCaddy, coach of the Bouffalon Bills from the D League, and one of the people making the picks for the Pick'em crew.
Now, like I said last week, pleasure to have you here, Will. And he'll be joining me each week because I feel like you guys wanted a second voice to talk with, and I think it just makes this a little bit more fun to have someone here to discuss and kind of talk back and forth with just about the picks and maybe why some of the guys picked as such. Briefly, we'll look at the picks from last week and see kind of what everyone thought, how the picks panned out, and yeah, just looking at that real quick.
Okay, so looking at it, it is looking incredibly stripy. There seems to be some games that seemed pretty much in the bag and people were very set on, and then some of them just didn't end up like what we thought they were going to end up being.
Basically, I think a lot of people were really high on Miguel winning, Gubbs winning, and John winning. However, as we look at the picks, that wasn't really the case. George, quote
Hmm.
unquote, upset Miguel. Nips swept Gubbs, and then John just fell short to Fizz. Otherwise, the other matches they kind of went along suit. You had like the outlier guys trying to pick the upset. Didn't really pan out for them, but the other games it did to some extent. And then, of course, everyone got Shady's game correct.
Okay, yeah. So overall, people seem to have got most of the locks right, which is really nice to see. Tom, you had your pick for the Borussia Don fans, which I think was probably the safest one to pick, uh, considering the matchup there. But if there's anything you want to add to that.
I did get last week wrong, so I was like, I got to redeem myself, kind of. So I did.
So for the first game, we have got John versus Shady, which is going to be a really interesting match. And we've got a very sort of spread of opinions going on there with Kelly securing the lock of the week on there, um, saying that John is out for revenge and will not let Mirabacote Milotic be a problem this time. And also the fact that SD Sizzle does a lot to Shady's team. So I don't know if you've got anything to comment about your pick for this game, Tom.
I'm just, you can't make moves if you agree with everyone else. So I'm going to go with Shady this week. Let's see how that works out. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does. Who knows?
That's absolutely fair enough. I had a lot of trouble trying to pick for this game because as an analyst, I feel Shady's really, really got himself together. He knows how to use his draft and he seems to be doing really well. But as a bettor, I'm a little bit more hesitant because Shady does seem to have that habit of bringing the wrong things or doing something like that, and that scares me slightly as in terms of placing my bet. And I know John is out for revenge as well, which is why I decided to stick with John for this one and possibly play it safe. It's hard to argue for that one, but that's how I feel.
I think I played a little close to the grain this week. That's okay. I can live with that. Moving on, we have everyone on the Fizz train. Toot toot. They're all picking Fizz against Crimson and the Detroit Steel Wings. We have Burke saying for his lock of the week that Fizzy is playing and prepping much better than Crimson, and Crimson lacks a reliable switch into Megazard Y. I can kind of agree with that.
Hmm.
Maybe Latios if he runs bulky, but that's a little far fetched. Besides that, like Audino, but that's not really a thing. And then
Yeah, I wouldn't say so.
Hank, which by the way we didn't mention, he is now new to the pick and crew. Since he can't be a coach this season, he has been tracking his own picks, and he requested to a few of us, "Hey, can I join?" And we were happy to oblige. So Hank is now a part, and he'll be picking with us each week. He said that in his brief season 3 stint, and so far in season 5, Fizzy has proved himself to be one of the top coaches in the GBA, and is very underrated. I mean, so far. Crimson, although he has shown improvement, has built a reputation that he is quite the opposite of Fizzy, a little less consistent, a little more like adjusting still, and Fizz should have no problem taking the win here. I can see that happening. It's a I think this game is probably the most safe game to go ahead and pick.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I mean, Zardex is quite a big threat, but then there's so many ways that Fizz could definitely prep around that and secure the win from there. So I'm pretty confident that Fizz is going to come out with a win on this one. So moving on to the next one, we have Mulvone versus George. Now, for this one, I am putting my chip with George for this one because I've been really impressed with the way that he's been performing, both in this season and also when I was playing him in the D League. It was absolutely crazy. I think Mulvone, while he's got a whole ton of offense, is not going to be able to break through George's bulky offense. And especially when his main sort of stop to a lot of George's threats is Umbreon. And for you guys that watch the D-League, you know what happened when George faces an Umbreon. He can absolutely wreck that thing with the right plan. So that's my thoughts in terms of that match there.
So I, as well as Baby Nick, have picked George as our locks of the week. I said that George has done very well with his prep, like you had said, and his new acquisitions in Shiftry and Bronzong should even out his team a little bit better, make it that much better of a team to face. I think he'll lock up with at least a 3-0, so he's going to win pretty handily. And then Baby Nick had said that Gothitelle will successfully trap something like Umbreon and Empoleon, and he thinks that something like a Combine set might be able to sweep through the rest of Mavone's team based on how many Combines he can get up or whatever in that span. Now, we all have George picked over Mulvone. Seems pretty standard. I mean, Mulvone has been very underwhelming these past 2 weeks. So, see how that one turns out. Either we're all right or we're all wrong. Definitely want to see.
Yeah, we'll just have to see with that one. So moving on, we've got Dan versus Lars here. Now, there seems to be a lot of support for Lars winning this one. And then, Tom, you've decided to be a little bit different. Is there anything you want to sort of add about your choice and try and explain why you're turning your back against the other analysts, so to speak?
I said it once, so it's like you can't get ahead of currently Kelly and Burke if I just agree with everyone. Also, I kind of thought that Dan has been a little underrated this season. I think people are not necessarily overlooking him, but with how I guess hot Fizzy and Lars have come out, maybe this is the week where Dan, he's going on vacation. He's gonna have a good Thanksgiving down in sunny, beautiful Florida. Why not go out with a bang? Let's get the upset. Let's go into week 4 with a W, and that's what's gonna happen. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair, to be honest. And if it does end up with Dan pulling the win, I'm sure you're going to be taunting us all week.
So after that, we have Nick and Nips, which, like the Fizzy and George picks, we're all on the Boston train. It seems that you, Makati, have your lock of the week with Nick.
Yeah, so I've got the lock of the week on this one, mainly because the amount of bulk that Nick's got is just absolutely insane. And I really cannot see Nips being able to break through that. Like, Nips has got bulk of his own, but I think Nick, with the way he's been planning and everything like that, is going to have a really solid plan to make sure that he can take out Nips's bulk without too much effort there. And I can see Nips having even with a good amount of prep, would still have to work a lot harder to try and take out Nick's bulk. So that's why I decided that was going to be my lock of the week for this one.
Also, not to mention that Nips has very limited options outside of like Diggersby for Alligator Gengar of taking out many of Nick's walls. So I could see that being a little bit of a struggle for Nips.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely disgusting, I think, trying to trying to break through Nick's bulk there.
But hopefully it is a good match. Moving on from there, we have Miguel versus Hayden, where this one is a lot like the John and Shady match. We have two people picking Hayden, being Blue and Kelly, and the rest are all on Miguel, seeing if he can redeem himself from last week's match. I added an extra note. I do this sometimes, mostly because I like talking about the other matches that aren't just the lock of the week. I think this match is a marquee matchup because it's the underdog newcomer coming in and taking on the champ. Does Miguel recover from his slip up against George last week? Or does Hayden come in and create a commanding win over Miguel and thus get a better lead in his division? I think that Miguel will somehow get through this match. I don't know how in terms of the matchup or just what exactly, but I think Miguel just has this game. Maybe it's just the veteran status. Maybe he just recovers a little better. But I think this is going to be, like I said, one of the best matches this week. Makati?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with everything that you've said there. One thing, yeah, the main reason I'm going for Miguel for this one is that veteran status. Hayden's really been impressing me lately, but Miguel has just got that history behind him, and I know that he's going to perform really well. Last match, he did take quite a big knock by losing to George, and I think he's going to come back and put twice the amount of effort in from last time, if that's even possible, to be honest. And he's going to be really there fighting to try and get that win. So I think Hayden has got a lot to face up against for this match. He may end up doing it, but as I said, I think I'm going to stick with what I know for the time being, and which is why I decided to go for Miguel.
So moving on, we have there should be a name to this match, like the hope match. Like you hope there's still one of these teams kind of gets out of their own way.
Yeah, at least one of them should get it. If they both end up getting Hope, I don't really know what's going to happen then. It's going to be another awkward stalemate or something like that. But yeah, hopefully at least one of them is going to be picking up their game. And it's going to be a really interesting game. It's really hard to know which way it's going to split. And as you can see in the picks, we can't seem to decide among ourselves which way this game's going to go. So I think it's going to be a really interesting one to see whether Gubbs can pull it back and sort of whether that 6-0 has demoralized him or it's actually sort of knocked the rust off him and he's now back and sort of going all guns blazing for the rest of the season. So I think it's going to be quite an interesting one to see from there.
And then the talk amongst the guys picking, Kelly, Burke, and Blue, who picked Steve. This is their quote unquote last straw. If this is like the hey Steve, win this one for me, please, and hopefully he does because they're getting a little restless with picking Steve and kind of putting them behind the eight ball a little bit when they're trying to pick all these games right. But finally, we have Tup versus Geo, in which case everyone's on the Tup train except Baby Nick. He picked Geo. But we have Blue picking Tup as his lock of the week, saying that the team matchup is pretty heavy in Tup's favor, and if he plays smart, like he did week 1, he should bring home the win.
So yeah, I think I agree with what Blue has to say there. I think it's not going to be an easy win for Tup. I think he still has to work quite hard to try and break that Hippowdon Blissey core. But if he can break through, then I think Excadrill, especially late game, might be able to pop in the win there. But he does have other tools as well to be able to break through. But Sand Rush or even Sand Force Excadrill, if he decides to do that, could be quite key, especially in the late game, to try and clean up all of Geo's threats from there.
I was thinking that, or Geo just brings the Sand Force Hippowdon to ensure that the sand doesn't get up, just to make sure that he doesn't get inadvertently swept on his own doing.
Yeah, that's something Tup's going to have to really watch out for, especially with that Hippowdon forcing quite a few switches, just making sure he doesn't miscalc and think that assume that because it's even though it's not producing Sandstorm, just completely forget about Sandforce because that could be that could present some potential problems if he does end up making that quite crucial mistake.
That it can. Burke added an extra comment on this match saying that Sandrill is going to be relatively useless. Bold call. And it might be another long, drawn-out match, which I hope it wasn't. An hour and 2 minutes was really long last week. So as you guys can see, overall to date, we have Kelly and Burke currently tied. The lock of the week should be there. I believe Kelly is winning with 2-0 in terms of his locks, where Burke is 1-1. I currently follow behind. Yep, that's right. I currently follow behind at 11-5, along with Makati, Hank. We're all 11-5. And then you have the guys that really need to catch up being Blue and Nick. But of course, they're the upset underdog guys, so we'll see what happens.
There's still time for Nick and Blue to redeem themselves and maybe make a few more safer picks rather than sort of chancing their arm a little bit. But we'll have to see. We've still got plenty of matches to go from here. And I think it's going to get quite interesting as we sort of start to split away from the group and everything like that.
Hopefully. So, hope you all enjoyed. As always, this series will continue to get a little better, minor adjustments. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Always like to answer and hear what you guys think. Like it if you're enjoying this so far. Like it from Makati, my new co-host. Hopefully he enjoys himself as much as I am. And with that being said, have a great Saturday. Look forward to the matches tomorrow. See you guys.
See you guys.